Welcome back to another edition of the OHIO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs, aka the Podfather. Before we get started doing anything else, and I introduce tonight's panel, don't forget to smash that like button. It absolutely helps us get more people involved, and we're so thankful that you all are here tonight who are in the live chat this evening. Hey guys, we are the official Ohio State podcast of Fansided and Scarlet and Game. If you do not like the way my face looks, neither does my ex-wife, by the way, you can listen to us wherever you download your podcasts or over at fansided at scarletandgame.com. We're also the official Ohio State podcast of The College Huddle. Head on over to thecollegehuddle.com where you can find us and 75 other of our closest friends from coast to coast covering their favorite teams, but nobody will cover their team like we do. You need to get a hold of us for any reason. You can email the show, theohiopodcast@gmail.com. And if all else fails and you forget all of that, just go to our website, theohiopodcast.com. Again, that's theohiopodcast.com, where you can find all of our social media links. You can read articles written by myself and other great writers, and you can find links to even the store where you can purchase some great items, Ohio State items, OHIO podcast items, and everything else. All right, on tonight's show, we have the home team. Below me is the doctor himself, Cory Thompson's in the house. Diagonal, bottom left of me is Chris, the wild man Wilds, who's not smiling tonight. Still not smiling. But she's raising the bar for our looks tonight as well as our IQ. It is Heather from Bougie Sports and the Best Dog podcast. Heather, welcome to the OHIO podcast. Uh-oh, did we lose Heather?
Thank you so very much for having me. I'm excited.
Good to have you with us tonight, Heather. We're thankful.
I think I'm my internet's getting a little crusty. Okay, I think I'm good.
Okay, there you are. We're good. In the chat tonight, we've got Madamus Prime Entertainment who became a member tonight. Thank you for joining up and re-upping with us tonight, my man. I appreciate that. And everybody else who's in the chat, we're glad to have you all with us tonight. Again, hit that like button, everybody. Share the show if you're watching on the old X so that we can get this thing out to everybody else. Let's dive right in to tonight's show, everybody. All right. We've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it. But I want to get it to a point tonight where we all can kind of come to some kind of agreement on Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator hire at Ohio State. Now, I at first was kind of like, what's this? I dove into it. I think there's several different avenues we can travel down as to why Ryan Day went down this path. So I'm going to open the floor first to Cory because I haven't heard his opinion on it yet. Cory, what do you think of the Matt Patricia hire? Why do you think Ryan Day hired him? And does that change anything moving forward for our defense?
I'm okay with it. I'm wait and see, though. I'm not going to proclaim it good or bad until we see the final product. It's a very different approach from Jim Knowles, though. Matt is very much a guy who likes to adapt to multiple fronts, do different things, kind of take the defense towards what the talent is. Jim is very much, no, it's my system, and we're fitting it however we can fit it. And I think that actually caused a lot of problems with Larry Johnson. But it's going to be interesting to see how Matt works with the current staff. You get the stories from Detroit Lions, and they hate him with a passion. Understandably, he was a terrible head coach. It seemingly came in pretty arrogant. Was one of the hot coordinators in the league at the time. But everybody from New England says he was personable, great, willing to work. He was a great communicator. Bobby Carpenter, glowing remarks about him. So he's trying to rejuvenate his career. So that gives me hope that we're going to get the very best version of him as he's trying to rebuild his career in college ball. I will give Buckeye Scoop some credit. I think they actually hit on the head that Bill Belichick is waiting to get back into the league, and he will take Matt Patricia with him. So I don't think this is going to be a long tenure at Ohio State, but I am definitely in a wait-and-see camp and to see what the final product looks like.
Interesting take there. Heather, since you are our guest this evening, I will let you go next. What is your thoughts on the Matt Patricia hire?
Yeah, so I was the same. As soon as we hired him, I said, I don't know enough about him. I knew of his failed tenure as a head coach, but I don't think that really coordinators don't always translate well into head coaches, so it didn't alarm me as much as if he would have been a failed defensive coordinator. I did a poll actually on my Twitter page and or X, whatever you want to call it. 70% of the people were actually excited about this, and I am of the let's wait and see. But I think what people forget is that Jim Knowles wasn't brought on to recruit either. That's a lot of the argument that I've heard. Oh, Matt Patricia's not going to be a good recruiter. Neither was Jim Knowles. So he's surrounded by people who are good recruiters. I think that Matt Patricia has great experience. He's got 3 Super Bowl wins as a defensive coordinator. He doesn't overcomplicate defenses. A lot of the players that have spoken out for him have said he explains to us why we're running these plays, which helps a lot if you don't have a high football IQ. Because like it or not, these are kids and some of them don't have the highest ceiling for football IQ. They said that he's actually coached offensive lines too. He did it twice in his career. So he understands a little bit of that piece of it too. I think that the only concern that I would have is that he's not known for blitzing. He doesn't like to pass rush. So I think that does need to change a little bit because that bit us last year. But I think that Matt Patricia is actually going to be a really good addition if it works out. Plus, he worked with Tim Walton. They've worked together before at Syracuse, so they already have a little bit of a relationship. I think they're going to be very complementary to each other. So I'm a wait and see, but I am cautiously optimistic that he is going to be able to replace Jim Knowles, not easily, but relatively smoothly.
Well said. All right, Chris. I'm all right. You said you might surprise me with your take tonight on this.
So I was very outspoken about Matt Patricia on Thursday night. I'm going to be honest. I still am not a fan of this hire. He is a bend but don't break type of guy. He gives up a lot of yards. As Heather said, he doesn't like to rush the quarterback a lot, which I think is gonna maybe cause some friction with with Larry Johnson. However, we've already seen Ryan Day come out and back Patricia with this, which tells me there may be some issues possibly with Larry Johnson and Ryan Day. I don't know. But as I look at his numbers, I'll give him credit because he did have one of the top 10 scoring defenses 7 of his 8 years as a DC with New England. That being said, he also had 25th or worse in yards allowed. Now, there's a difference between guys playing in the pros and guys playing in college. In the pros, I feel like it's less likely that you're going to see an error. I think more errors happen in college football, which I think could cause more scoring in college football off of this bend but don't break style. Also, his pass defenses are atrocious. He was no better than 12th in pass defense at any time during his tenure in New England. And honestly, he was no better than, he only had 1 year where he was better than 9th against the run. So to me, if you look at those numbers, that's concerning, I think, a little bit, as well as the fact that if you look at his recent lack of success, obviously, and Heather touched on it with the Lions, although, again, she's right. Not all these college guys translate well into the pros. We saw it with Urban. We saw it with Saban. We've seen others, but, those are the 2 most notable. So, maybe he's a coordinator who wasn't meant to be a head coach. Maybe he's not meant to be a head coach at that level. And then you look at his time with the Eagles, and they were a crap defense. They were a crap defense before him, and it got no better after he took over, ranking 31st and 29th and giving up 26.8 points per game and 363 plus yards per game. So I'm very concerned about this hire. He talks about bringing a toughness back to this team, but you know what? I don't know that he's capable of that. And I see Tyler or somebody had thrown out, or Sean threw out earlier, Bobby saying what a smart guy he is. And you know what? I believe Bobby 100%. I believe the guy is a genius. But just because you're a genius doesn't make you a great defensive coordinator. So to me, I look at the numbers. I'm concerned, Eric. I'm concerned. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the worst hire in Ohio State history. I'm not going to say that he can't succeed. I just don't feel good about it. Maybe I'm wrong.
So I think when it comes to this hire, it's not so much about who Matty P is or was or what he did wherever he was at. It's more to do, in my opinion, on how does he fit what Ryan Day's vision is. That is why I feel, even though at first I was kind of like, wait, what? I took a step back and I looked at this through the eyes of Ryan Day as the head man. If you watched the video I made this morning, it is evident that this Ryan Day that we saw in the playoffs is the Ryan Day that's the head coach of this team moving forward. You don't walk into the living legend Larry's room and say, listen, I love you, guy, but it's going to be what the defensive coordinator wants to run. And if you're going to have an issue with that, it's time to retire. You don't do that if you don't have a clear vision on what you want to see done on that side of the ball. And I believe Ryan Day does. And if he believes Matt Patricia is going to be the one to see that vision fulfilled, then I'm all for it, because I'm all for Ryan Day right now. So I'm going to come back at you with this question, Chris. You can give me an answer real fast, and then I'll give Cory and Heather a chance to rebuttal as well. But do you feel that maybe, Chris, your kind of wait and see attitude with Ryan Day is maybe kind of why you feel this way about the hire?
I'm going to say that there's probably a factor to that. That's part of that.
Fair enough.
Because I think that I have to see that Ryan Day is that same Ryan Day we saw through the playoffs. If he is, God love him, I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in Ohio State history. If he reverts back to laid back Ryan Day, I don't think things are going to go well.
Cory, do you feel the same, or what is your thoughts on Chris's feelings? Do you share any of those at all?
I don't think Chris is out of place. I can understand why people are a little down on the hire, and I'm not trying to speak for Chris. I'm just saying I understand why you're not in love with it. I could totally understand that. He hasn't had any success in like 8 years now.
Yeah.
I kind of write off the Lions thing, like Heather was saying. Some coordinators just aren't head coaches. Wade Phillips was a phenomenal defensive coordinator, terrible head coach. I couldn't do it. You'd always have one really good year somewhere, and then it just declined rapidly. But Matt Patricia, obviously, he took a year off football last year. I think he had to get better mentally. He worked with Bill Belichick all year. And I think, and he was apparently, according to, I think it was it Peter Nakos, or I'm not sure who it was, but it was reported that he was studying college offenses with the idea of going to the college game. Here's the interesting thing about the bend but don't break defense people are bringing up, and I think Chris and Heather brought it up as well. I agree. It's going to be frustrating to watch at times for sure, and I don't know how well it'll work in the college game with the clock rules the way they are. You got to get teams off the field so you can get the ball back. So I'm a little curious as to what Ryan Day sees in Matt Patricia. I mean, I'm going to trust Ryan Day on this. I know Patricia's a smart guy, and listening to his podcast couple weeks ago, he went on, I don't know who it was, but he was discussing defenses. He's a student of Saban, student of Belichick. He obviously understands defense. Now, can he communicate it and get the guys to believe in him and simplify it for a bunch of college kids? But I'll tell you, he checks one box for me that I really like. I wanted an NFL guy. I think a lot of college teams have had success going and getting not necessarily NFL head coaches, but NFL coordinators. And I hate to say it, Team Up North did well with it. And I don't know if it'll work. I'm definitely kind of where Chris is. I'm not in love with the hire, but I'm just very wait and see. But I like the fact he's an NFL guy.
Heather, I'll give you the last word on this topic. Any last thoughts about this hire?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of things. Ryan Day is also promoting other people who are going to be around him. It's not just Matt Patricia running the show. So we're worried about the secondary. We're worried about, blitzing. I think we're going to have other coaches that are in there helping with that. So you have complementary coaches. And then you had brought up the how are you going to simplify it to some of these kids? That was one of the main things that I read about him, that players were saying he dumbs it down for you. He doesn't overcomplicate things. He explains it, and he's very adaptable. So I like the hire for that reason. But I mean, I can understand why we're skeptical, because look at how the defense was before Jim Knowles took over. It was bad. It was really bad. And we can't live through that again. We can't live through that again. So I can understand why everybody is skeptical. I'm just trying to ride that high from postseason Ryan Day.
Yeah. Jeffrey Johnston, do we have the players to run the 3-4 defense? Hang around. We're going to talk depth chart. We might get into that a little bit the second part of the show.
We have to get into that because he's not running the 3-4 here.
Yeah, he can't.
Yeah. I don't want to say he can't.
He can't effectively.
Why?
I don't think we have the personnel.
I don't think we have the personnel for it.
Yeah.
Are you positive in that?
I feel pretty confident about that. I'm with Chris on that one. I don't think we have the personnel for it. I mean, we have basically one nose tackle
right,
who can't stay in the game because I'm thinking it's because of cardio issues, like Tyleik Williams was his freshman year. Maybe he gets better at that. I don't know. You have to move Edric Houston out. Kenyatta Jackson, I guess, could be a stand-up outside line, but you're teaching him a new position and dropping him in weight. I mean, who are the two outside linebackers at rush? Other than C.J. Hicks and who?
I was going to say C.J. Hicks and Sonny.
But you also have – okay, then your two middle linebackers are probably Peyton Pierce and Arvil Reese maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is Sonny Styles really a rush from the edge kind of guy? That's another question.
7.5 sacks.
Yeah, I was going to say he was playing that quite a bit, so I think he can. Yeah.
All right.
Where's your depth? Where's your depth, though?
I'll say this, Cory. Yeah. If we do run that, we're not going to run it a lot because we have zero depth there. Like, it's not like we don't have too deep to run that defense. We haven't recruited to it.
And I also think the 3-4 is a little bit outdated as it is anyway, as the way they run it or traditionally run it.
In the Big Ten, they're going to run it down your throat if you run a 3-4. I'm just telling you.
I think that's part of why Caleb Downs is so special, is that he adds almost an extra linebacker in the box when you need it, but also plays safety. I think that's the whole idea behind the 4-2-5 essentially, is that the added speed with the guys who can play in the box.
Right. This defense, as you're going to find out in the second part of the show, is very secondary heavy.
Oh,
they've recruited for it, and it would be a long-term transition if they were to decide that they were going to change. But the way I understand this is that we're going to run some multiple looks. Now, you can run multiple looks out of a 4-2-5. You can run a 4-3-4 and run multiple looks and keep Larry happy. But we'll see. That conversation between Ryan Day and Larry happened for a reason. So we'll see what transpires moving forward. All right, on to our next topic here, guys. So the other day, I was talking about the season that Jeremiah Smith had, and I mentioned that he's on the Mount Rushmore of freshmen, all-time freshmen at Ohio State. And then that got me thinking out loud during the episode, who would be on the Mount Rushmore? And I just mentioned 4 names real quick, and then I got to thinking, I don't know that I'm right. And then when he started reading the comments, there were other names being thrown out, and I thought, well, let's all give our Mount Rushmore of the all-time freshmen at Ohio State in history. Now, you can only go back, I think, to is it the early 70s?
70s, yeah.
72,
That'd be
Chris?
Archie, yeah.
Because that was the first year
A freshman ever played.
a freshman was allowed to even play college football. Before that, you weren't even allowed to play if you were a freshman, which is why um, when you see statistics and historical statistics, it's 3 years that they have stats because they didn't play until their sophomore year. But I digress. So that being said, we're looking at from 72 on, and I threw out some names to you guys to consider and look up, and I went into that. And so we're going to start tonight with Chris. We'll let you go first here for this one. Do you want to give one guy, or do you want to give your entire Mount Rushmore?
Do we want to go around one at a time? I mean, I'll go ahead and do the whole thing if you want to.
Let's just give our entire Mount Rushmore.
Quick question: can we
Yeah.
run through like an honorable mention? Like not
So
not
you want
not describe each guy, but like just run through it. Yeah.
Here's Cory cutting up the mountain, putting a fifth head on there again.
I'm gonna put 12 heads on that.
It's
thing.
like having Aaron back.
I'm going to say, are you airing this thing and you're going to be like, I've decided to give a Buckeye leaf to the entire team?
No. I have 4 definitive guys, but I like to honor, like to pay respect to the other guys too.
So what's the other monument out west that they're creating? Chief something or another. You guys do. It's like an Indian riding a horse, and y'all know what I'm talking about.
I'm very up to date on that kind of stuff. So
I don't know that one.
Anyway, all right. So, anyways, if they were gonna put a fifth head on Mount Rushmore, Cory, who would it be? I'll let you give an honorable mention. Chris, you go for it, man.
All right. Well, I did the tough job and just went with 4.
Oh, okay, tough guy.
So I got to start out with Orlando Pace. I mean, the guy was the most dominant offensive lineman possibly ever at Ohio State. You know, John Cooper, who recruited the hell out of everybody, said that this guy was the best player he ever coached. Mm-hmm. So I've got Orlando Pace on there. Going up to number 3, I went with Big Cat. Katzenmoyer came out in 96. Led Ohio State to a Rose Bowl win, 85 tackles as a freshman, 23 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, 4 interceptions. Guy had a phenomenal year. Number 2, and this is where I may get some pushback. I did go with Jeremiah Smith at number 2. 76 catches, 1,315 yards, 15 TDs, man. And I don't think we win the national title without him. It's that simple. I just don't think we do. Number 1, another freshman who won a national title that we couldn't have done it without, and that's Maurice Clarett. I mean, 1,237 yards, averaged 5.6 per carry, 16 rushing touchdowns, 2 TDs receiving. Most 100-yard games by a freshman was 7. Most points by a freshman, 108. Most touchdowns by a freshman, 18. And not only did he have a tremendous offensive season, but he made possibly the best defensive play in Ohio State history up until Jack Sawyer.
He did that.
I think Henderson actually broke that record. He had 19 TDs.
Henderson did. Did. You're right.
Yeah, Crazy Horse Memorial in the Black Hills. Thank you, Donald and Karen Rosbeck. That's what I was thinking. The chat comes to my defense. All right, Heather, what is your Mount Rushmore of all time?
I cannot make this up. It's the exact same list. It's the exact
too.
Same
exact same list here too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I chose Maurice Clarett not because of what he did during the regular season, but because I think he made probably the biggest play that we've ever seen is when, I don't know if you remember, I think it was an interception. It was either a fumble or an interception.
An interception by Sean Taylor.
Yeah, and Maurice Clarett chased him down and he took the ball back, and that could have been the game change for them. That could have been what put them away. And I think that Maurice Clarett was just so good. He was just so athletic. So I had him on my list. I did, if I had to choose an honorable mention, because I was looking, Jeremiah Smith had a phenomenal season, and no one is going to argue that he's a generational talent. But I almost put Terrell Pryor in there just because of what he meant to the program. It was, he came in the middle of the season and he kind of just changed everything. And I think that he was just so polarizing. And really, it was because of his antics that we got Urban Meyer. If it wasn't for Tattoo Gate, we wouldn't have had Urban Meyer. But I think Terrell Pryor meant a lot to the program. He had a very good freshman year, but I had Jeremiah Smith in there above him.
So Heather's saying because of Terrell Pryor, we got Urban Meyer.
What was the tattoo scandal that got rid of Jim Tressel?
It was. I mean, yeah, it was. You're absolutely right. So in a weird way, Terrell Pryor gets credited for our 2014 national championship.
I credit him for that, because if he had not gotten those, I mean, what he could do now and get paid for it, and he brought Jim Tressel down. I mean, Tressel was the fall guy for it, and we ended up getting Urban Meyer for it.
Ironic, because he loved Tressel.
I know.
He did. Well, incidentally, because we have Maurice Clarett in here, do you know Jim Tressel visited Maurice Clarett in prison every single week?
Mm-hmm.
They're both actually from an area that I grew up. I got to watch Maurice Clarett get recruited. And I worked at this little restaurant, and that's where he brought them in. We served hot dogs. And I remember he got recruited by everybody.
Mm-hmm. So I got to ask, Heather, where did you work at?
It was this little place called the Hot Dog Shop.
Yeah, down in Warren, right across from where I worked.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, I worked at the hot dog shop. It was the greatest job I'd ever had. And that's where Maurice brought everybody. Yeah. For whatever reason, he brought everybody there. And I remember when Lloyd Carr came in, I got everybody's autograph except his. They're like, aren't you going to? No, I don't even want to serve them. So I have a special place in my heart for Maurice Clarett too. So, and Andy Katzenmoyer, he's not smart, but boy, could he play.
He wasn't here to play school.
So I've got Andy Katzenmoyer, Orlando Pace, Maurice Clarett, and Jeremiah Smith.
Yep, we all four had the same freaking.
We did not, you guys. We did not talk about this before.
No. Orlando Pace, I think, is. Can I be honest though? Out of that list,
no, please lie to us.
I picked Terrell Pryor. No. I thought about J.K. Dobbins. I really
he does. He gets forgotten, but man, his freshman year was a banger.
I was at that first game in Bloomington when he started, and but anyways, I digress. Orlando Pace is my George Washington. He's I don't think as great of a season as Jeremiah Smith had, as great and rememberable of a season as Maurice Clarett had. Orlando Pace was the most dominant freshman in the history of college football. It's just he played a position that doesn't have stats. Mm-hmm. And what's crazy is
they created one for him.
What's so crazy, he created a stat, is how good he was. Yes, Heather.
He finished fourth in the Heisman, running in 96 as a lineman.
As what was
in 96.
94. Yeah, 94.
Yeah, in 96. But that's what the progression of him. He was that good, and he finished fourth in the Heisman race when he was a junior. Like he's arguably the greatest, most dominant to ever do it.
So I stood next to Orlando Pace and got my picture with him one time. I am not a small human being by any stretch of the imagination.
You were that day, weren't you?
I felt like do you remember the one of my favorite movies is in Elf, is when he comes in and he calls him, when Will Ferrell walks into the boardroom and you're an angry elf, call me Elf one more time. That's what I felt like.
So you had Orlando Pace in a headlock is what you're telling me.
No, Orlando Pace put his arm around me for the picture, and I felt that hand. And I was like, he could literally crush me like a pop can. Like that man is just a massive human being. But Orlando Pace, if who's your George Washington? Think about who your George Washington would be. I think Chris, you said it was Katzenmoyer.
For me,
yeah,
no, I had Clarett at number 1.
Clarett, okay. Heather,
Clarett,
okay. Cory.
Pace.
Give me your Mount. Well, we know your Mount Rushmore, but give me who's your number 5.
Pace. Number 5. I'm sorry, I think you meant my George Washington. Number 5 is Joey Bosa. Phenomenal freshman season with him. And even Urban Meyer said, I've never had a defensive lineman freshman make an impact like he did. 7.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. Just he was instant impact. Interesting note about Orlando Pace. I didn't know this till I read about it today. In high school, in his senior season, he played defense as well. 80 tackles and 6 sacks. He probably could have been a great defensive player as well.
Chris Carter was
Yeah.
definitely the greatest freshman wide receiver in Ohio State history until this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's,
I mean, his record stood what, 40 years?
well, yeah, it was 80.
I will defend Chris a little bit on this. Chris Carter a little bit. He was in an era where passing offense was nowhere near sophisticated as it is
And
today.
Cory, Chris Carter played with what's his name who just passed away,
Jim Carsados,
where Carsados was literally trying to throw the ball away.
And he made one of the best catches in history.
I mean, think about that. But no, I mean, I think unfortunately Chris Carter's never going to be replaced as far as just his legacy, but Jeremiah Smith's freshman year has replaced Chris Carter's freshman year as far as a wide receiver. Tyler brings up Archie. Now, that was who I initially had on my freshman Mount Rushmore, but when you go back and you look at the stats, it's just not comparison.
He had a good freshman year, but not tremendous.
But the fact he did it with Woody Hayes was something else because Woody didn't play freshman.
And he fumbled on his first carry.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Woody didn't cut him that day.
I love
literally cut him. Yeah.
So, in a weird kind of roundabout way, if you stop and you look at the freshman running backs that have played that alongside Archie, Maurice Claret, obviously, who we've all mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Dobbins had a tremendous freshman year as well. Travion Henderson had a really good freshman year. In fact, that was his best year until this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all three of those guys had better freshman years than Archie actually did statistically. But when you think of Archie, you think of two-time winning Heisman Trophy winner, and you immediately just, hey, he's got to be on this Mount Rushmore. But we're looking at a specific season, a specific period of time.
All-time Buckeye players, Archie's probably on it.
So. Oh, definitely.
That's right. Yeah. And that was the rub, right? Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I can't look at career. I have to look at that freshman season only because Maurice Claret he only played that 1 year. So you can't look at the career as a total for this exercise. So I had to step back from that.
Yeah, Bob.
Another fun exercise though. All-time or Heisman or Mount Rushmore for all-time players.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
That talk about we create more drama than like talking about politics with that one.
So
nice.
Chris and I and Aaron have done this, and we actually broke it down by decade.
Yeah.
Which was incredibly difficult. And when it's all said and done, the decade of the 90s was just unbelievable. Talent-wise.
Yeah.
All them titles they won.
That's what's you just sit and you think. That's why I think the argument of if the 90s were today, meaning 12-team playoff, I think John Cooper's got at least two national championships.
Yeah, and like off subject, we talk about Ryan Day gets a lot of you beat Michigan, but at the end of the day, you don't have to beat Michigan anymore to make it into the playoffs. You don't have to beat Michigan to win a national title. So if we have to trade one for the other, my soul is for sale.
Chris has never mentioned the Michigan thing on here, I don't think.
No, Chris is silent about that. He's like radio 1979. He's gone radio silent. And
look, it stinks. It sucks, but hey, we still won a national title. So
hey, and I give Day his due. He won the national title. Good for him. We were happy to see it. But again, he's a great coach. But I still contend he's not elite until he has a winning record versus that team up north.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
We shall see. Let me throw this at you before we go to our commercial break. The all-time Mount Rushmore of Ohio State athletics. Are you ready for this?
Jeez.
Woody Hayes,
Oh, so we're putting coaches on too.
Archie Griffin, Jack Nicklaus, Jesse Owens. Tell me I'm wrong.
Jack
You're wrong.
Nicklaus. Are we talking? Yeah, you're wrong. Just Jack Nicklaus. Are we looking at what they did in college or what they've done afterwards?
Right.
He's got a museum on campus.
That's
So
because
what
he's
he
a
did- so what he
billionaire and
did
he
is
donates a ton of
pro.
boosters. Like, I could have a museum.
That's
if I
kind of
could.
like arguing who the most famous
I mean,
people who are
he
associated with
was
Ohio State are.
dominant in college golf. Don't get me wrong, but not.
Yeah,
You know.
I would not say that Jack Nicklaus is something to like sniff at.
But I
Like,
also wouldn't put a coach on there either.
I don't think
No,
you can. I don't know if you can do a Mount Rushmore of all-time athletics. It's just so vast. It's like-
yeah.
How do you leave Lucas off there?
Boy, that's something that we're all like, well,
It's just an interesting
Yeah.
conversation I've had before with people, and the Jesse Owens thing transcends sports, right?
Well, Jesse
Well, I'll
Owens.
give you Jesse. Jesse Owens should
will.
be on there.
Yeah, I will give you Jesse because of what he did while he was there.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Fun little nugget of information. You know, his name wasn't Jesse. It was J.C., but he had such a thick Southern accent that they couldn't understand him, so they called him Jesse. Little trivia, a little bit of Ohio State trivia there.
Heather bringing some
Told you.
facts.
We take hard left turns with me, so you never know what you're gonna get.
We don't know who we're putting on Mount Rushmore then.
No, I'd have to really think about that. That would make me. would make me
Lucas Owens, Archie, and Bowserman.
Kenny Guyton. Kenny Guyton. Who didn't love Kenny Guyton?
I
Hey,
mean,
everybody loves
I'm
Steve
adding
Jobs,
him.
you know.
I got it. Kyle McCord.
That's right.
Who
Yeah,
doesn't love some
I was
smooth
smiling,
jazz?
I was
Right?
laughing a little bit tonight, Cory, and then you got to go and do this mess.
Told you I was on one.
Stan Brooklyn bringing some facts for you here, Heather, as well. Jerry Lucas won a high school championship, a college national championship, an NBA championship, and an Olympic championship. What?
Yeah, what is left to live for? Like, you've accomplished everything you can possibly accomplish in your life. I would just quit everything. You know what
Did
I'm
you
saying?
win the YMCA championship in elementary school?
I
That's
doubt
the
he did.
question.
Probably.
Then that's going to keep him off Mount Rushmore.
Right, loser. Should have tried harder.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes, and we will continue with the conversation, everybody.
Hey, Buckeye Nation. The OHIO podcast is thrilled to partner with Export Mouthguards, the innovators redefining protection in contact sports. Introducing the Ninja Pro Mouthguard, the strongest and most advanced mouthguard on the market. Engineered by dental experts, it's designed to deliver elite protection with a sleek, low-profile fit. Made with carbon fiber and multi-layer construction, it's impact tested to keep you safe from even the hardest hits. But that's not all. The Ninja Pro is 3D printed for 100% custom fit, offering unbeatable comfort and security for any athlete. From football to MMA, dominate your game with confidence while safeguarding your teeth and jaw. Getting started is easy. Use our home impression kit to create your custom fit and enjoy prepaid shipping. It's protection delivered right to your door. Plus, with a 1-year warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee, and proudly made in the USA, the Ninja Pro is your ultimate defense on the field or in the ring. And here's the best part. When you visit exportguards.com, use promo code OHIO at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. That's right, 20% off elite protection made just for you. Protect your game, protect your future. Choose Export Ninja Pro Mouthguards, where innovation meets protection. Head to exportguards.com and use promo code OHIO today.
The OHIO podcast is brought to you by Mastermind. Mastermind specializes in 360-degree high-definition mobile video mapping, GIS integration, and traffic safety studies. Mastermind cares about traffic safety and keeping you safe on the roadway. Visit Mastermind at onlinemastermind.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, Heather, let's ask you a few questions before we dive into our next topic. So, Heather, tell everybody what you do and where they can catch you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you guys, if you're not following me, you can follow me on X, on Twitter. It's at Love Buckeyes, LUV Buckeyes. Obviously, I love my Buckeyes. So I do a couple of podcasts. I do a podcast with my girl gang network, Bougie Sports. You can find us at bougiesports.net. You can follow us on X at Bougie Sports. And then I do a podcast with my great friend Ethan, the best doggone podcast in the land. I'm not even going to tell you what that handle is. Just go on my Twitter page and you can follow it in my bio. So I just love talking sports. I love pretty much all Ohio State. I watched Ohio State softball win a couple of games today. So it's good to be a Buckeye.
They are off to a fantastic start this season.
They are off to they got a new coach.
Yep.
They got some new players in. So I'm a huge softball fan and I love Ohio State softball. So yeah, they showed out in that tournament today. They were this weekend.
Yeah.
OSU women's sports putting the guys to shame right now.
Yeah, the hockey team's like number 2 in the country.
They're number 2. Well, the hockey team, they've won in the last 2 of the 3 years. They were national champions, and last year they won. 2 years ago, they were runners up. So they're lights out. They're so good.
They're so good. They have, and of course the new women's professional hockey league is full of like Wisconsin girls, Ohio State girls.
Yep.
It's basically Big Ten girls. Although Big Ten is not there's no Big Ten conference in women's hockey, but
right.
And the men are doing really good. I think they're ranked 8th in the nation.
They are ranked 8th. I watched them today. I think they won. Was it today or yesterday? I think it was today. So yeah, it's fun to see some of the other sports aside from football. It's a nice off-season break.
I do not believe the super chats are turned off. Let's take a quick look. Give me 1 second, guys, and I will double check that. No, they're on. They should be on.
Oh, there it is.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's dive into our next topic here. Thank you, Heather, for that information. We have let's go here next. Please define for me, and let me set this up for everybody. So, Chris brought up an interesting topic on, was it the members only?
No,
Chris?
it was on Thursday night's call-in.
Thursday night's call-in. $2 super chat from Sarah Boggs. Thank you, my love. Yeah, so Thursday night's call-in show, talking about Matty P. And Chris said he's worried that it could be a culture killer. And I thought, ooh, that's a really good topic. But before we can dive into what would kill a culture, we first need to define what is Ohio State's culture in the football program. We talked about this during the season a little bit, and we had trouble defining that. So tonight, this exercise is for us to kind of try to define what is Ohio State's culture? Now, there's a lot of different ways we can approach this, but how I would like to think of it is this. Kind of writing a mission statement, if you will, for the program is a way to kind of maybe narrow what the focus of that culture might be, and then trying to give examples as to why you picked that definition, okay? So I'll leave it up to you guys who would like to go first. And if no one wants to volunteer, I'll be happy to go first. But does anybody want to jump on it first? Nope. Okay. I will go first then. Here is how I defined Ohio State's culture in the football program over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I said, the culture is to fight for everything you hold dear. Faith, family, and football. Now, here, let me give you examples of what I mean by that. Ryan Day talks about fighting a lot. Fight for this, fight for that. You have to fight for it, right? So much so that I just listened to a interview where RJ his son, was asked to talk about what like a slogan or something he holds dear in his heart to try to motivate him in his life. And he said, "My dad talks about the word fight a lot." And he goes, "That resonates with me as a player." And he goes, "You need to do that for everything in your life." He's like, "When I'm in the classroom, I need to fight to have good grades. I need to fight to make sure that I need to fight to make sure that I protect what's dear to me. I need to fight for my brothers on the football team." And so I took that and I expounded upon that, and I said, what would Ryan Day said we need to fight for? And he's mentioned it many times. Faith, family, and football. He talks about that a lot. I think that's the culture at Ohio State. And I don't think you have to look very far to define that faith part, right? The players are so open about that on this team, that's a part of the culture, whether you like it or not. That is the part of the culture at Ohio State, is the faith aspect. Family. How long have we heard about the brotherhood? I mean, that's been around since Urban Meyer or before him even, right? I think that is definitely ingrained in the culture at Ohio State. And if we could go back one, the faith aspect, I believe that was back even when Tressel was coach, right? With the playbook and things. So faith, family, and then Ohio State football. Let's go all the way back to Woody Hayes here, right? Like nothing was greater than Ohio State football, right? So I think those are the three things that Ryan Day would say. Those are what's worth fighting for: faith, family, and football. And so I think that to me kind of defines what the culture is at Ohio State. A $5 super chat from Bobby Mack. How about a list of the best players from the top sports: men's and women's basketball and hockey, football, softball, baseball, track, and soccer? My gosh, that could not be done tonight. I promise you, that would take a ton of research.
I am way too
That's,
lazy for
that's
that.
multiple shows.
That is multiple shows, Bobby Mack, and that is something that I will definitely write down as something we need to look into. But thank you
Tell you
for
what,
the
Bobby,
idea.
whoever you choose, I agree.
But if you remember, we did do a top. What did we do? A top 50 athletes of all time at Ohio State a few years back.
It was football. Was it? Was it?
No, we did
Oh,
all athletes because we had Jesse Owens on there, Nicholas was on there.
we did that?
We did that. You and I did that.
I don't remember doing that.
We did.
Oh wow. Well,
And
you need
I think
go
we
find
had.
that show, Chris, and let's
I
just
think
regurgitate it.
I think we had an article to boot that I put up on the website at the same time.
Really? I must have forgotten this. All right, who would like to go next?
I can.
Okay.
So for me, I think it is respect, integrity, and perseverance. I think it's an evolving culture. I will say that, but I don't think there's any doubt that there's a great respect for the game. There's respect between Ryan Day and his players that is, I think, unmatched um, in sports right now. I mean, um, Ryan Day truly cares for his players, and that's reciprocated. Um, integrity, I think that despite what you would read on some of these scum websites, we run one of the cleanest programs in the country.
Mhm.
And Ohio State is not going to tolerate you breaking the rules. And if we find out you're going to do it, unlike them, we are going to actually report ourselves and take our spanking like a good little toddler. Um, Everything we do is above board. And I think a lot of that ties in, Eric, to the character of the players that are recruited, as well as the faith aspect of this program. Integrity is a huge part for me. And then perseverance. My God, we were all over Ryan Day and the kids on this program following that Michigan game. Myself and everybody else. Um, these kids came together and overcome those losses. You did it. Oh, Rose. They did it this year. Make national. The only time they failed was last versus Missouri.
And we lost Chris. All right. I will keep that up there, Bobby, until Chris comes back. So Heather, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I actually have two facets to this because I think there are two facets to this team now. And the first one is have faith in the next man up. Because look how many injuries we had on our offensive line this year, and look how everyone just stepped into that role. And it's been the same over and over and over again. It's been that next man up mentality. But I think that the biggest impact that Ryan Day has on the culture is mental health matters. He's such an advocate for mental health, and he's such an advocate for it's okay to not be okay, that I think it makes these players trust him more. They love each other more. They're a lot more open with each other. So I think that mental health, he donated $1 million when he just got that contract extension. He's donated millions to his own fund. He has experienced massive loss, and he's made it okay for these players to say, I am not okay, which I think actually impacts them on the field, because you go to work and you're having a bad day, you're going to have a bad day at work. You go on the field and you're not mentally okay, it's going to show. So I think I think that the impact that he's made with mental health has just been huge. So I would say have faith in the next man up, and then mental health matters would be the two facets of the culture I think that Ryan Day is fostering.
That's a really good point, Heather, to bring up mental health, because it's such a part of the culture at Ohio State that it literally has saved Harry Miller's life.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we celebrate championships as Ohio State fans, but we should celebrate the fact that that young man is still alive more than anything. So,
well, do you guys remember in 2014, was it Costa George, when, so that it happens, and unfortunately it happened. So, for a head coach of his visibility to recognize that, it's everything.
Yeah. Good. That's a good point. All right, Cory, what you got, man?
Well, let's also not forget recently passed Ben Chrisman, unfortunately.
Ben Chrisman. Yeah.
I don't know the official report, but the way the UNLV web X whatever posted it sounds could have been a suicide. Prayers for his family. Obviously, it's horrible, and you know how Ryan Day would have handled that situation. I'm not saying that Dan Mullen and them didn't do anything, and I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I don't know what happened there, but we have proof that Ryan Day would have been all over that. As far as the culture is concerned, I didn't even know what to say about that until the Denzel Burke interview with Chimby Chekwa and Brian Browning, because Shane Larson's the guy who loves culture. I'm usually not one that thinks about it too much, but it got me to think, Eric, and I appreciate that. I'd say high standards within the brotherhood is their culture at this point. It's obviously I'll start with the back end of it. The brotherhood part of it is obviously it's been going on forever, but I think Ryan Day really pushes this program to say, hey, when things get rough, we have each other, and that's it. We can't look outside the program. We got Ohio versus the world. It's within our brother. We got to rely on each other, lean on each other. And I think that showed this season more than any season in Ryan Day's tenure. And I'd say the high standards, because Denzel Burke said something very interesting that I don't think too many people caught. He said, if we didn't fix what was happening on the defense side of the ball after the Oregon game, we were going to have another losing season. And I'm like, another losing? You don't have losing seasons. And to them, not winning the national title is a losing season. Talk about pressure and high standards that they'll have to live with, which actually is the reason they need a strong brotherhood, because it's never going to go it's not always going to go according to plan. In the past 3-4 years, it really hasn't. And this year, they really had to lean on each other, especially after that Michigan loss. And we saw the clips of Lathan Ransom. We saw the clips of the leadership in the practices and Ryan Day in those group meetings. And they really leaned on each other within the brotherhood. But they also know they got to live up to high standards. So they have to pick each other up to meet those standards. And they did this year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Absolutely, Cory. Chris, do you want to finish your thought? You broke up on us pretty bad at the end there, and it looks like you had to go restart your router, maybe.
Yeah. So I believe I was just, I had talked about, I was just starting to talk about the perseverance aspect, I think. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you look at what they had to overcome this year specifically, but over the course of the last few years, The only time they really didn't show strong after losing that rivalry game was when they faced Missouri, and they had a ton of people sitting that one out.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at it, I mean, you lose to that team up north, you come back, you have a strong game in the Rose Bowl. You lose to that team up north, you have a strong run in the playoffs this year. This team is the model of perseverance. And myself included, we were calling for heads. We were calling for Ryan Day's head. We were done with some of these players. We were down on everyone. Eric, you said that they broke you, as a fan.
Yeah.
And they, instead of just phoning it in and moving on, they pushed the reset button and persevered through this. So to me, respect, integrity, perseverance, that is what this program is all about.
So it's funny that none of us, I mean, we all mention aspects of football, but none of us mention national championships and winning Big Ten titles. And none of that is what was mentioned when it comes to the culture.
I kind of did.
Don't you think you have to have, you can't have one without the other? I think it leads to that. So
Right.
You can't have that toughness. You can't have that next man up. You can't have that perseverance if you're not pursuing that title. So I think it kind of just goes without,
Well,
for me.
I think Denzel specifically mentioned that, essentially saying we would have had another losing season.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. And that was a great interview, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my point is that it's not the end all be all, though. Right? Because, I mean, let's take Georgia, for instance. If I were to say to you now, what's Georgia's culture? I mean, you're immediately going to go to drag racing and winning SEC titles, right? Like that's the, you know what I mean? And there was a time at Ohio State when I gotta be careful how I word this. There was a time.
Just throw it out there, Eric.
Well, there was a time when having a really good level of, man, I got to be so careful. We were breaking the law a lot.
Well,
players were in trouble with the law a lot.
It was anarchy and chaos.
Okay. You hardly hear about that anymore.
Right.
We're doing a good job hiding it. Yep.
And the amazing thing is, Eric,
that's what Michigan fans will tell you.
In an era of social media, when you're constantly scrutinized by everyone with a phone on their camera, it's amazing that there aren't more incidences. And I think that says a lot to the character of the young men that Ryan Day and his coaches recruit.
It does, absolutely. But let's just take, for instance, the two players who got kicked off the team a couple years ago for the incident that happened with the young lady, right? And Ryan Day kicked them off, and then you have
they were found innocent.
Well,
they were found innocent,
right? But you see what, the standard was so high that there wasn't even a wait and see or
don't put yourself in that position.
We're going to get into a whole new show here because you can't wait and see anymore when there's accusations like that. You're automatically guilty in the public's opinion. And please don't come at me. I'm just saying you are automatically guilty until proven innocent now.
You're 100% right.
And who was it? Garyon Conley. Was it Garyon Conley that his whole NFL career was absolutely obliterated? Shot straight to the sun because somebody made a false accusation against him and he fought it and he won and he sued her for defamation for $1 and he won, but the guy missed out on millions of dollars. So you have to, that's a slippery slope with some of the programs that have these accusations because you don't know how many of them are true versus how many of them are. Some are very valid. But I would compare it more to a Georgia culture where they're absolutely breaking the law hands down without question. There's assaults, there's there's drunken disorderlies, there's all kinds of stuff.
They're this generation's University of Miami.
They are actually, but they I mean they are. And you just don't see that at Ohio State because Ryan Day, I don't know if it's that he recruits, any better than anybody else. It's just that you have that you have that culture of wanting to do better. You want to do better for the guys that you're playing for. You want to do better for your coaches. You want to do better for your friends, for your family, because that's what Ryan Day instills in you. And that's what his coaching staff instills in you. So I don't think it's that we're recruiting better people. I think that we are cultivating a better environment for them to learn and grow, because you can't just throw these kids, especially now with NIL, you can't just throw these kids into $1 million deals into the biggest spotlight of their lives and just say, good luck. You have to teach them. They're
Biggest
kids.
example of that is Judkins. Everybody said he had a terrible character before he got here. He gets here, he's a model citizen.
Yeah.
I'd like to think our culture had something to do with that.
I guess he's so loved, and all the things that he did for kids, and I mean, he turned out to be one of the greatest human beings. So that's a fantastic.
Maybe the Browns ought to send Deshaun down for a while, see what happens.
They can just send him straight to the sun. Straight to the sun.
That's the next episode.
Just lock the Woody up. Don't let him in.
Do not let him, and don't let. You can have me on that show. I've got very strong opinions on him now. Not because of what he was accused of, because of how bad he is.
So this all goes back to my initial point, and thank you all for stressing this for me. But the culture is, and Ryan Day said this in an interview that he just did with the podcast, where he said, we won this the right way. And I thought, what an interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't and it was brought up in context to NIL, okay? Meaning we didn't go out and buy a bunch of players. We used our NIL to keep the guys here to bring them back, essentially. But I think it goes beyond that when he says we did this the right way, we won this the right way, is we didn't cheat to do it, right? We didn't go out and just buy a championship, although the SEC's crying that we did. We didn't. You look at how they won this thing, and I think the culture has just as much to do with how this team was able to win. If we didn't have a right culture, there's no way we would have got off the mat after that November 30th loss to beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame the way we did. Without culture, that's impossible to do. And that's my 2 cents on that. Do you guys agree, disogree? What do you all think?
Agree.
Agree 100%.
Agree. Yep.
Who could disagree with that? I'd seriously like to meet the person who disagree with that.
There's someone. I promise you, there will be someone.
Go look on Twitter. There'll be somebody.
Yep. They'll probably be in our DMs later today.
It'll be a scum fan. It'll be a scum fan. Guaranteed.
Bobby Mack. Day said we may not recruit the highest rated player, but the best person for our program. That's a great point. Yeah.
Some of the best players to watch are the 3-star, because everybody is watching the 5-stars are already supposed to be great. You have a Caleb Dow. He's great. He's going to be great. You have a Jeremiah Smith, number 4 player in the country. He's going to be great. You don't know how great, but you know they're going to be great. But when you start getting into those 3-star recruits and seeing how they develop, maybe they were really a 3 or a 5 or a 4 or a 5-star, but they just didn't have the right coaching around them, or they didn't have the right equipment around them. They didn't have the right culture around them. And seeing them develop, I think, is really the telltale sign of a great program. Ohio State doesn't recruit 5-star, 4-star players. They do, but not every single player that is great is a highly touted recruit. It's the development of these players. And I think that that's where we excel, in the development.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
That's really good, Heather. This is such a fascinating conversation, and I now that we're here, I wish we would have went ahead and done the culture killers next, because I think that would have just been a nice thing to do. But I think we're gonna go ahead and move on tonight. But before we do that, Chris, this little bad boy will be coming to the OHIO podcast store very, very soon. And just in case you need to see what the backside says, it says, smash that like button. So if you haven't already, please smash it. And we'll be selling these on the OHIO podcast site very, very
Not only
soon.
that, but by the end of the week, we should have Podfather shirts available, t-shirts and sweatshirts.
Oh my goodness. I cannot I mean, I don't know if I should tell my mom I've made it or I should tell her to be very concerned that she might walk down the streets one day and see my face on somebody's shirt. I don't know. That's
She's gonna
scary
think
to think
you're
about.
a gangster or something.
Well, that's how we roll.
What is my son involved in?
That's how we roll in the old Mount Vernon. It's an Amish gangster's paradise.
Hey, Weird Al did that song for a reason.
I've turned butter once or twice.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We rated our show all of a sudden. Yeah.
My wife said she can't wait to get it autographed.
What would that sell for on eBay? Would it actually lessen the value of the shirt, or?
It would probably lessen it. It would probably lessen it.
It was a $20 shirt. Now it's an $18 shirt.
Okay, let's move on to our final segment of the evening tonight. I'm going to lay out for all of you what I believe the two deep is on the defense going into spring ball. Now, this is obviously subject to change. And if you guys want to debate with me on this, that's what this is about. Let's try to work this out tonight. But let's start with the defensive line first, guys. I've got on the defensive ends Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, and up the middle, Caden McDonald and Edric Houston as my starting defensive line. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Mm-mm.
That's pretty much probably it.
I feel like it's the most chalk of the most chalk you can get in on this team this upcoming year. I think it's evident that those are the four starters on the defensive line. Now the two deep can get a little interesting here. So here's what I'm going with. I'm going to go up from the middle first. I'm going to go with Tywon Malone Jr. and Logan. I'm going to go with Logan up the middle. Tywon Malone Jr. and Jason Moore.
Yeah.
And then Will Smith Jr. Eric Mensah as the three deep. But Tywon Malone Jr. He's a fifth-year senior. I think he's definitely in the two deep. Jason Moore is a name that we heard a lot last year, and then we didn't see a ton play this year. But that's who my two deep is. Anybody disagree on the defensive up the middle, defensive tackle, nose tackle position?
No.
I think Mickens is possible on the edge. They like him a lot.
On the edge?
Yeah, possible. I ain't saying he's gonna be there, but I know they like him a lot. So.
Maybe in place of Grady or George on the defensive end. Yeah.
Okay, well, on the defensive end, I've got Logan George, the transfer. I went with Dominic Kirks, but I can be persuaded on Zion Grady or Mickens. But I went with Kirks. Am I wrong on that?
It's hard to tell right now.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see. I think we'll have to see what happens in spring ball. I think everybody's really high on Zion Grady. But I'm with Cory here a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing Mickens in there at the defensive end in the two deep.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of but it's hard to say what the depth is because we don't know what kind of defense he's going to run. You don't know where some of these you don't know where some of these players are going to end up.
Heather, were you going to say CJ Hicks?
CJ Hicks. And that's okay, Heather, because I thought the same thing.
I was going to say, and then I'm like, shut your mouth, Heather.
No, yeah. So I wonder if CJ's going to make a move. And if he does, I think he immediately goes to the two deep. I just do.
Yeah.
You don't move him otherwise.
Right.
Well, there's no point. Right. Yep, that's what I was going to say, CJ Hicks. I'm like, don't say it.
No, for this exercise, I currently have him at linebacker until I hear differently.
That's fair.
But I do believe that there is a chance that he ends up as the defense in a defensive end position of some kind. All right, let's move on to linebacker. So it's really hard to do until we know what kind of defense we're running, but I went ahead and just kind of went 4-2 for now.
Mhm.
And just kind of until we're told differently. I think your starting linebackers are Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who I have. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Can CJ possibly attest for that if he's there? Possibly. If we do go to a 4-3, I would put CJ Hicks at the Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if he is at the linebacker position, I got him backing up Sonny Styles if we're running a 4-2-5. Give me Peyton Pierce as the other middle linebacker, and then Garrett Stover is the linebacker behind them too.
Yep. That's exactly what I had.
Kind of wondering where on the depth chart Pettijohn
I
finds
got
himself.
him. I got him next to Garrett Stover, but let's see what he does because he's a talented guy.
But in a 4-3, man, you might see all these guys.
Well, Laurinaitis is slowly rebuilding that linebacker room, which is nice.
Yes.
I think Riley Pettijohn is going to be one. We're going to have to watch him. I think he is going to be an impactful freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope he is. I like it, and then here's the other one too, man. Like, it's hard for me not to root for Garrett Stover because of his relation to Cade. Being cousins with Cade, and I love me some Cade Stover, man.
Well, and Garrett was a hell of a nice guy. We met him down there at that camp, and just a super guy. Not a tiny gentleman either.
He's not, but he's super fast. That's the thing he brings to the table. That I'm not so sure that he's not the fastest linebacker next to Sonny Styles in that room. So that's something to be. That's something to keep your eye on as well.
I'm actually also, Eric, to your point, excited to see Peyton Pierce because we keep hearing the hype on him.
Yeah. I think Laurinaitis kind of has a man crush on him. Like, I think Laurinaitis really, and if your position coach is gonna like go to the nines for you, like, you're gonna play, right?
And what does Laurinaitis know about linebackers?
Not all. Yeah, I mean,
he's all right. He was all right.
Yeah, he's okay. 9 years in the NFL. Yeah.
Right.
So, Eric, as we go to DBs, have you made any position changes?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I want like there's a part of me who thinks CJ Hicks could be at the two back at defensive end, and Iggy could be at the nickel, and like we could really see some changes. And I think that world exists, in all honesty. But until I am told definitively they have moved Iggy to the corner, I think he's at, when I say corner, at the nickel, I think he's your starting corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And someone made the argument with me in the comments section of one of the videos that he wouldn't come back if he wasn't coming back to improve his draft stock as a corner.
That's probably right. I mean, I can see the argument.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, he needs to work on his hands, man. When he's on, he's so good, but boy, is he handsy. So stressful. He's so stressful.
But after the incompletion, you're always like, is there a flag? Is there a flag?
You hold your breath. You hold your breath. Like he's very handsy. He's the player. Wasn't he the player in the Penn State game where he had 2 pass interference calls on one drive, and then he gets the freak interception in the corner of the end zone? And you're like, who are you? You're either really bad or you're elite. There's no in between.
The Jekyll and Hyde of corners, right? Like, his physicality though screams to me that he could play the corner.
Oh, I agree. He's got the talent. Yeah.
But that position is not. It's not as valuable in the NFL. And if he's coming back to improve draft stock, he's not coming back to play corner. And so that
confusing me here, Eric. You mean nickel, right? I was thinking.
Sorry, nickel.
Yeah, you're
nickel,
really confused.
Like, you didn't see me. I'm like, corner's not valuable. Like, wait a minute.
I keep calling it corner because in my head I call it the corner slot.
They draft corners pretty high. I'm just saying, if they're a shutdown guy.
The nickel. Thank you. I'll get it right eventually. All right, let's just go to the nickel. Can we just do that? I've got penciled. I got penciled in Lorenzo Styles Jr. to start there.
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Devin Sanchez will push somewhere on that line.
Yeah,
Does he
I don't
push-
know where though. Where does Devin Sanchez push? Does he push for a
That's a
corner?
good
Or does,
question.
yeah, does he push
I
for
think he
nickel?
pushes at corner because I think if there's anybody
That's
that's
where
going to push for time in that slot corner or a safety role, it could be Aaron Scott.
Really?
I think he could push to get in there. Yeah.
Scott wasn't Scott
He
like
was
in the
outside corner, but I don't know.
He
But
was-
so was Hancock at
he's
first too. So
It was Hancock at first.
but he was too deep at corner last year as a freshman.
I'm just saying, for playing time, you could see it.
It also depends of how much they're going to rotate that corner position.
Correct.
All right.
Which they might more so this year, just because it didn't work last year. We were burnt toast in the secondary, so they're gonna have to do something different.
All right. Let's go. Let's just run through the secondary my starting lineup is secondary, and then we'll take the whole secondary, and then we'll go too deep. All right. I got Iggy and Jermaine Matthews Jr. as my starting corners. Lorenzo Styles Jr. as my starting nickel. I've got Jalen McClain as the strong and Caleb Downs as the free. That is who I think is penciled in to start in spring. I could see it changing quickly.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot of young guys in there
right now.
pushing. Yeah,
Especially when you hear who I have on the two deep. All right, let's go there. Devin Sanchez as a true freshman, Aaron Scott Jr. Those are my two deep at corner. Miles Lockhart at the nickel. Fahim Deline at the strong, and Malik Hartford at the free.
that's fair.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Here's the one name I'm trying to figure out.
Okay,
Bryce West.
he's going to be in the 3 deep somewhere at the corner.
He's 3 deep. I have him 3 deep in the outside corner. That's where I have.
And honestly, he looks kind of good at times. So
I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I think you could see he's 3 deep right now, but how quickly can that change? We've seen it changes in the second, in a game. So I think that we're going to see him. Maybe he's third in the depth chart, but and corner third in the depth chart is not as deep as you would think. So I think he'll be in there.
See, I agree with that take. Absolutely, it comes quick at corner because there's so many rotations. There's so many positions on the field for it. So,
What about West at the nickel, like Sean's saying?
I don't think he has the hips for that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was worried about. Can he even play it?
He could be a really good outside corner, but some guys are just made for the nickel. Some guys are just made like Lorenzo Styles would scare me to death on the outside, but nickel he could play pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that's where if he's going to make it. By the way, this is his last year. He is he's a 5th-year senior who transferred, so this is the last year for him. But and then Iggy's a senior.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
Those are our only seniors in the entire secondary. Now, Caleb Downs,
he's kind of
Caleb
senior.
Downs is a senior. He would have went out last year.
Just trot him out on senior day. Just trot him out.
Right,
there.
exactly. Just give him his accolades because he's going in the first round.
Oh yeah,
exactly. He's top 15 all day.
He's probably top 10 if we're being completely honest with you. If he has an even better season, he's going to be top 10. He's going to be the player that you take because you take the best available player and not the position that you need.
Right.
It was interesting to see Matt Patricia talk about Patrick Chung at the NFL level with the Patriots and how valuable he was as a safety, like the unsung superhero. So he knows how valuable great safeties are. So it'd be interesting to see how he uses Caleb Downs.
Yeah, and Tyler, this is what we've talked about. Like, there's a world where Aaron Scott needs to be on the field and needs to be on the field a lot and starting. And so who do you move to possibly play nickel? But if you move one of those guys to nickel, then Lorenzo Styles Jr. is not on the field.
He's the only one to me that has a weak. He is the weakest one to possibly replace on the field as Lorenzo Styles. The other two, Iggy and Matthews, are locked in. They're not moving. So they had the most reps, the most experience. Iggy's going to be a leader on that defense.
We're not deep at nickel.
No, exactly.
Which is why if you hear in spring that someone is taking reps at nickel that we didn't mention, then they're experimenting. they're looking at somebody at
Garrett
that
Stover
position.
taking nickel rep. Okay.
Wouldn't be surprising.
I would not be shocked if he gets moved to safe or moved to a
I
safety.
could see him move to safety. Yeah, I could
He's
see that.
so fast, guys. He
Yeah.
played safety in
He
high
played
school.
safety in high school, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's a big dude.
He would be a big safety, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like-
so's Malik Hartford.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles was a big safety. So.
Right? It looked awkward at times. You're just like, why is this guy not a linebacker? My
I think
God.
all of us, the consensus among Buckeye Nation was like, he's going to move to linebacker, right? We all know this, right? I mean,
Yeah. Right.
It's pretty obvious.
So now that we've looked at this defense from a depth position, it's time to ask the tough question. Are we ready?
who's the kicker? No, I'm kidding.
No, they don't even know who the kicker is.
We're not taking into account scheme. We're not taking into account the coaching change. I just want to ask the question, how much of a step back are we going to take defensively here?
Well, what are you comparing it to? The first half of the season or the second half of the season? Because we forget we weren't exactly lighting it up in defense in the first half of the season. I was there for a couple of the games and it was not the prettiest. So I don't think we take a step back. I don't think that we're going to be much better necessarily than we were, but I don't see us taking a giant step back. That Texas game is tough. Game 1. That's going to be the test.
You know, for me, I know you don't want to take all the scheme. I'm a little concerned. I think the talent is there to still be a top 10 defense, but given we don't know what we're going to see out of Matt Patricia as a play caller, I'm concerned.
It's hard to separate the two.
This could be a top 10 defense. This could be a 40th ranked defense in the country. You know, you just don't know.
I don't think we'll take that big of a step back.
Well, we were number 1 in the country. We're definitely not repeating that.
But do you think they could still be top 10, Cory? Because I think that's where it should.
I think 10 to 20, somewhere in there, is probably where they'll end up being. I mean, we lost 8 NFL guys.
Correct.
NFL guys. Not as good college players. NFL guys. They will be drafted. Look, I like Arvell Reese. Is he a step down from Cody Simon? I mean, maybe a big one.
With experience, yeah, he's a step down in experience.
That's fine. Well, whether he gets there or not, he's not there yet. You know,
right?
So Kenyatta and Caden are really nice players. Are they as good as Jack and JT? I mean, Kenyatta might be. He's shown flashes. I don't know though. That's a question mark. Tyleek Williams is a massive loss.
Yeah, that's a huge loss.
I don't even know how you replace him. I mean, Cade McDonald's shown flashes, but can he last a whole game? Can he be that guy the whole game? And Edric, I think, is going to be great, but he's shown flashes. There's so many unknowns. We kind of knew what we were getting last year. We knew we had the potential to be. That's why we were all saying this defense better be really good this coming up year, because we all knew what we had talent-wise. Caleb Downs will be great as usual. I think Iggy will be really good if he'll have his moments, of course. Matthews has shown enough to where you can have confidence in him. McLean has shown flashes. I think he can be a good player, but again, it's just so many question marks. We knew Ransom was great. You know, we knew Burke was. I hate losing Ransom.
So do I. Lathan Ransom and Cody Simon, I think, are the two that I am most upset about because they didn't get the love that they deserved the whole year.
You're right. And then, of course, you lose leaders like Jack. I mean, who steps up to be that leader? I mean, that's another thing.
Right, because great players don't equate to great leaders. I like Caleb Downs, but I'm not sure what a great leader he is. He's a great player.
And if Iggy's leading the defense, we're going to lead the country in penalties. So
we are. Poor Iggy. I like him. I had a hot take. I said this is going to be Iggy's year, though. I think we're going to see something better out of him this year. That's just me.
I wonder how many times our defense get their face spat on. You know?
He
and I
handled that
think
pretty well.
Hancock's a big thing too. I mean, like I said, Cory, you mentioned this yourself. Your biggest concern might be Lorenzo Styles.
Mm-hmm. He ain't Jordan Hancock.
Yeah, he's not Jordan Hancock.
Jordan Hancock was hardly mentioned in a game because he's that good.
Yes.
You never heard from him because He's
going to make some NFL teams so happy for
he was
like 10
eliminating
years.
the slot receiver all game long, or
Yep.
the tight end all game long, and you just never heard from him. So it's unrealistic for us to sit here and think that the defense is going to be the number one defense in the nation again. It's just not. But if we can keep from falling off the ledge defensively and we can stay in football games, depending on how fast this offense can get up to speed, that's the key here. Blue Wolverine has gifted 10 more memberships to the OHIO podcast. Thank you, Blue. Man, that's really kind of you, my man. We got Eric, who was gifted a membership. Looks like Doozy, Paul and Deb, Grant, Trent, and why am I not using my mouse here? I just brought this up. Shane. This one's my favorite here for you, Cory. The Rod Farva. Jordan. He's a Michigan fan, ain't he? Michael Treese. And then Tim May's laugh jumps in the chat. So much talent on D mitigates Jim Knowles' influence. Let's go, Matty P. But I digress.
I don't agree.
No, I think at their age, you have to have good coaching, and that was
perfect example. Shiano's 18 defense, all the same players. Jeff Halfley next year. Look at the change.
One more year of development, though, too.
But who's developing them? I mean, it's like Halfley comes in one year, they change the defense. All of a sudden, they're the number one defense or number 4 defense in the country from the 71st. That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is. I'm going to say that this defense is going to take some time to get to where we want it to be. I just don't think it's going to be a right overnight. It's going to be fixed and everything's going to be good, and we're looking at a national championship level defense. I just don't think it's there. And then it took Jim Knowles 3 years to really get the defense to where he wanted it. In his mind, and I don't know that we ever are truly where he exactly wanted it, but we were at a place where we were championship level defense, and it took guys coming back, right, who would have been playing in the NFL this year to go along with that. But to think that we're just going to not miss a beat here, I think is unrealistic. This defense is going to look and feel a little bit different, but they're uber talented. And I would be okay if we kind of went with more of a risky style defense and said, hey, look, we might give up some big plays, but let's try to create turnovers. Let's create havoc, especially in that secondary, man, where all the talent lies. There's so much talent in that secondary. Maybe they should, consider being a little bit more risque on the backside right there. So,
but what's going to be interesting, Eric, is seeing Matt P being the coach on the defense all his own without Bill Belichick overseeing him, because part of the reason why he doesn't blitz a lot, why he plays bend don't break, is that's kind of how Bill likes to do it. I'm wondering if Matt comes in and says, no, I want to blitz it'd just be interesting to see if he's any different on his own. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll see.
Well, and we're not going to see this in spring. We're not going to know this in the second.
We're not even going to see a game.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if we're going to know if we're going to see that. Well, maybe against Texas, because we're not opening it up against like an Akron or a YSU. But we're still not going to see it until 2-3 games into it's. I've seen some of that though. Oh, we'll have to wait till spring. No, you won't, because you're not going to see anything in spring. Right.
We won't see it. The coaches will see some.
Correct.
We won't get to see
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
Like that spring game / spring. What was it? Spring showcase. Talent
showcase. And I think it's a showcase now. They're like, we're not even going to call it a game.
At least they're being honest with us now.
Yeah, for a couple years,
Yeah, I still think they should put all the Ohio State podcasts together for some kind of event down there on the shoe. That would be hilarious, just to see all of us podcasters down there trying to perform athletic feats.
One thing we can always count on is the complete overhype and blowing of what they see in practice from the Buckeye beat. They're all flying to the ball. Here's a name you haven't heard. It's just going to be like clockwork. It's just like, oh man, they're really coming together, and it's every year.
2 years ago, Cory, you did not hear that from Eric and I after the spring game.
You guys will tell the truth, or at least tell the truth as you see it. The Buckeye beat just constantly sunshine pumping, and I'm like, okay, guys, don't stop it. This third stringer is never going to play. Stop telling me he's on the rise and stop it. And then he never sees the season. I stopped doing subscriptions because of that crap. I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
So, one thing you'll get from Chris and I is the God honest truth about the offensive line. And that being said, I'll end the show here. This is the first time in a long time I'm so excited about this offensive line. I can't tell you how, we have depth. I was working through the 2 deep on offense this afternoon. I was like, oh my gosh, the depth on this offensive line. We've got so many options. And so that gets me to say this. Man, Justin Fry had to feel like he had a saddle on his back all season long from Buckeye Nation, man. We were riding that guy hard. And he wins the national championship. The offensive line, spearheaded by the offensive line, who had multiple injuries. He leaves and goes to the NFL, and what does he leave? A 2 deep that we haven't had on the offensive line since Urban Meyer was here.
Right.
Kudos, Justin Fry. How'd you do this, man? It's magic.
Yeah.
Who's the backup left tackle, Eric? I'm very curious. I know on Wayne, or however you say his name, probably gonna be the starting, but who's
Probably
the backup?
Armstrong, probably, isn't it? Deontay?
I'm wondering if they don't move Luke Montgomery.
You think?
Or Ian Moore, one, and then the Armstrongs.
Ian Moore's going to be one of the backup tackles. I just don't know which one. Probably right tackle.
I don't know which side. So when you say left tackle, I'm like, it's going to be one of those 3 guys. One of the Armstrong twins, Ian Moore, or Luke Montgomery I think Luke Montgomery is going to take some tackle snaps this year. At least in the spring.
I have Deontay Armstrong as our backup for left tackle. Because I looked at the offense. Too. I have Deontay Armstrong.
And then Devontae, his twin, is a guard.
That's going to get confusing.
I have Devontae at right guard. I have Devontae at backup right guard.
Yeah.
And then we get to see if Bowen's any good.
Yeah, right. But listen to the center and guard depth we have, just real fast in closing. You got Carson Hinsman, obviously, who you all know I love. Austin Sierreveld.
Sierreveld.
I always want to say Severveld, and that's not. There's not 2 V's there, so I always mispronounce it. Tagra Shabola, who started the majority of the season, right? I would not be surprised if Josh Padilla doesn't get the starting role at center and they kick Hinsman out to guard, right? And then Montgomery had snaps at guard. So and there's only 3 positions, guys.
Yeah.
There's so much depth on the interior of this offensive line. I'm excited about this offensive line. This is the most excitement I've had for this offensive line in the Ryan Day era, at least.
Yeah.
The only issue is it's a lot of unproven depth. That's the only issue.
But it's depth that won a national championship too.
Yeah, and they were there, but are they any good?
There. That's the thing. They were there. So we do have some of the younger players that have the experience.
Well, and Sierreveld got plenty of snaps.
He did.
Don't get me wrong. Tagra, Luke, and Sierreveld and Hinsman clearly have a ton of reps and a ton of experience.
Yeah.
Padilla doesn't have a ton. And the Armstrong twins they've never played.
No.
So. And Ian Moore, who they rave about. I'm not saying they won't be good. Yeah. I just don't know.
Well, they're all redshirt freshmen. I mean, at least they've been there, but they've not seen anything.
And now they're changing coaches. And here's another thing: will their development be stunted by a new coach who's, from what they say, is more of a recruiter than a developer? So that'll be interesting to see too. I mean, I don't know that either. That's just what I read on the guy. It ain't like I've been following Bowen's career forever.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to rain on your parade, Eric. That's all I really wanted.
No, don't. You smash that like button. Make me feel good. You're not going to make me rain on that. Feel bad, dude. That's fine, dude. I like it when people push back. All right, guys. This was a ton of fun. Thank you so much, Heather, for being our special guest this evening at the OHL podcast. Let everybody know one more time where they can find you.
They can find me. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. They can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Love Buckeyes, LUV Buckeyes. And in my bio, you can see, I'm not even going to go into all that again. You can see where you can follow me on all my podcasts, Bougie Sports and the Best Doggone Podcast. And we talk all kinds of stuff on my Bougie Sports is mostly for college football. So if that's what you're into, follow on Bougie Sports. That's where you can see me talk all about college football, and we'll be getting into the draft, the NFL draft here soon. So, we got to get right into spring because football is over. And how sad is that?
Yeah.
I hate it.
It's tragic.
It is. It feels empty. I mean, I'm a Cleveland fan, but it feels empty. I have the Cavs right now, so I guess I've got something.
And they're really good.
Hey, pitchers and catchers reported.
They did. Right. I'm not so high up on the Guardians this year, though, so we'll see every year. I did, Bobby. I did a show on this on Ohio State drafts, and I have 15 going for sure, but I think 17. I think we're going to see 17 go this year. I think they're going to get a record.
16's a record, isn't it? 15 would tie
17,
it. 16 would break
15 would tie it. 16 would. Yeah, I think we're going to see a record this year.
Yeah,
I can't
Bobby,
believe a couple of guys that didn't get invited to the combine.
I know, right? G. Scott and Fryer.
Yeah, that's weird to me. But
we do the draft different than anybody. We actually play a game where you can win prizes. So, Bobby Mack, you're not going to want to miss that. We will definitely have a prediction, and then the week before the draft, we actually predict round, number, team for every Buckeye, and they all have different points, and we add up the point system, and whoever wins gets a prize from us. And last year was the first year it wasn't one of us hosts that won it all. So it's a lot of fun. You're going to definitely want to check that out when we get closer to the draft. But yeah, we'll have more draft news in the coming weeks, guys. So again, thank you so much, Heather, for coming and being a part of the show this evening. We really do appreciate that. Cory, you want to tell everybody what you'll be talking about tomorrow night on Buckeye Therapy?
I'm really interested in that Denzel Burke interview and how the dynamics played out, which it sounds like they played out according to Denzel between Jim and the rest of the defensive staff. And I want to talk a little bit more about Matt Patricia and what he brings to the table and how that'll affect the defense going forward. So that was, for whatever reason, that's hugely on my mind right now.
Kenneth, you want this hoodie, just go over to our website, theohiopodcast.com. Up at the top of the page, there is a button that says merch. That is where you can find this hoodie and purchase it. All right. There's two links, one that says store and one that says merch. This is under the merch. The store goes to Chris's online store. All right, guys, thank you so much again for coming in. Heather, thank you so much. Don't miss Buckeye Therapy tomorrow night. As always, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Guys, you all know what to do. Till next time, OH!
I
I
Go Bucks.